Okay. So Supreme Court, how do you think Biden handled the sort of idea that Trump should not be nominating a nominee right now?
So I thought that he was extremely kind of reserved in this, and I think that when I say reserved, I don't mean that he didn't make a point about it. His point was clearly that it is advantageous. He was like, it is morally advantageous in terms of getting the best view possible, given the context now that people wait, right? It's just as a matter of decency in terms of figuring out what the American people truly want. We should wait until the election's over. And truth level, right? This is correct,
yes.
Right? The truth is
that in 2016.
Now that Ruth Bader Ginsburg has unfortunately passed, rest in peace, I think that it has officially become a swing issue. It matters to people. The question of whether or not Trump gets to put someone on matters to people.
Yeah.
And if it is a factor that exists when election day comes, it is something that will influence who people make a decision to vote for.
Now the thing is, I don't think Trump is wrong on this, because if Obama had the Senate in 2016...
Yeah, Merrick Garland would have gone through.
Right. So can we really say he's wrong, or can we criticize Biden more for not calling out the fact that you're letting it happen?
Well, here's the thing about that, right? One is speculative, right? We can speculate that if he had the Senate, he would have attempted to push through. And obviously, they attempted to rally people in the Senate to flip sides so they could get the appropriate number of votes. So we know that this is true. But the Republicans made an official statement in the filibuster that was this is not fair. They were just their position was legitimately everything the Democrats are saying now. They're just repeating it. And I think the place where Biden missed an opportunity was just to be this is the most hypocritical we've ever seen.
Right.
And Trump even gave him that opportunity. He introduced Merrick Garland first, and he leaned into it. He was like, yes, this is entirely hypocritical. We will do this. I have plenty of time after the election. He was like, even if I lose,
I still got time.
Even if I lose, I'm not out until you get inaugurated in January. So guess what? Even if I lose on November 3rd, sometime before Christmas, this woman is getting on the bench. That was his literal comment.
Right.
So he leaned into the hypocrisy thing and was just like, I am a hypocrite. I will fully concede it. It doesn't matter. I'm elected for 4 years, not 3. Suck it. That was his point. And I'm just like,
pretty much.
That might be the most honest we have seen Donald Trump all debate.
But now what could Biden have done to capitalize on that?
At least make some sort of debacle about the nature of that hypocrisy. If he's going to concede in debate terms, if he's going to concede the link, you should read an impact.
Right.
He conceded that he was making a hypocritical move to push in advance, knowing that the American public might, because Trump literally, so Biden says this is the moment where I'm just like, what is going on? It's because Trump doesn't finish a sentence. Biden says the people are going to vote, and then Trump says the people have made their voice known.
Yep.
They
voted.
Now here's the thing. That's the thing. What you just auto completed the sentence. The full sentence would have been, they voted for me in 2016. Therefore, they wanted me to make this decision.
Right.
However, if you watch the clip back, and I urge you to go watch the clip back, Trump says they. So there's no end to that sentence. And part of that might take into account the fact that he lost the popular vote, et cetera, et cetera. But legitimately, something hard goes crazy in his brain, and he doesn't finish the sentence.
You think Trump wasn't finishing sentence? Why did not in that scenario he didn't finish the sentence?
Because I legitimately think that he understood that it would have been impossible for him to make that claim. Because if he said, they voted for me, Biden could have been like, well, actually a majority of them didn't vote for you. And then all of a sudden there's a conversation around that.
Right.
But he does not, we think it. We think the claim, and we know what he's trying to say. We know he's trying to say, they voted for me in 2016, therefore X.
Right.
But he never says it himself, which I think is I think is either intentional or it's something that he didn't mean to do.
It's definitely a good rhetorical tool, so it doesn't get into the discussion of 65 million versus 62 million.
Yeah.
Trump asked him, are you going to pack the courts? Biden said he's packing the courts. For people who know what that means, that just means putting more people on the Supreme Court. So instead of 9, it might be 13 or something. That's better in a lot of people's eyes because there's more opinions, more diversity of perspectives. Biden did not agree to it. Why do you think he did not agree to do that?
Well, actually, this is one of the few points that Biden made straight up. So Biden said, I am not agreeing. Because so Biden didn't say, I won't pack the courts. They asked, Chris Wallace's specific question was, will you pack the courts? Biden said, I refuse to answer that question. Trump was like, see, he's not answering questions. He's not answering questions. And Biden was like, I refuse to answer this question because if I answer the question, this becomes the crux of the issue.
And what do you think he meant by that?
Literally, he was like,
we distract from the Amy stuff, and we focus on packing it.
Yeah, we distract from the Amy stuff. And the second thing is, I think what he said was, I don't want the Supreme Court to be the swing issue. That's what that claim essentially.
But my question is, why didn't he just say yes? I feel like
because if you say yes, then you lose a ton of moderates that are like, this is an abuse of power / certain people do actively believe that the act of court packing means that you are pushing because you got to think he's not packing the courts. It's not an even distribution. If we kick it from 9 to 13, you got to think that there's going to be at least 3, if not 4 Democrats in that 4 that he puts on.
And you don't think he can make the argument to America that it's better to have more perspectives?
Yeah, but if you intentionally select perspectives that are from the same side,
but that'll be either side.
Well, yeah.
If he's in a winning year,
well, that'll be either side in court packing.
Right.
Trump can make the claim that he's not court packing. He's picking somebody that's
it's not politically beneficial for him to say that, even though it would help both sides if there were more people because they would get to pack more perspectives from their sides.
Depending on if people eventually die.
Right.
It's a weird thing to think about. The Supreme Court, the politics around the Supreme Court is oddly morbid. I guess theoretically not more morbid than having to deal with things like healthcare, where 200,000 people are dying. But it's very strange to be like, I am setting the foundation for policies for the next 50 years around somebody's death. Here's a question.
Why aren't there term limits on the Supreme Court? I was reading in some judicial journal that it's supposed to be this appointment of the most highest of the highest political or not political, but constitutional thinkers. Yeah. Which is why you have to give them time to think. I'm like, what the fuck? That. What?
Because here's the other thing. You also don't want it to be kind of like an electoral thing, right? Wouldn't it be weird if you had to run for run for the Supreme Court?
That's the reason.
It's by the way.
But it's political. That's the problem. Amy has views on healthcare.
I think the way that it was set up was because you have to think initially that the point of the Supreme Court was that it was supposed to be nonpartisan and was very, very textual in terms of their interpretation. That's why a ton of people liked Scalia, even though people hated him too. Was because everyone was like, oh, he's really, he holds true to the spirit of what the Supreme Court was.
And the people who are not originalists but see the Constitution as a living, breathing document, your argument is that those people, if they had terms, then the Constitution would basically fall apart.
Yeah, because the Constitution would be reinterpreted every 4 or 6 years.
I can see how that can be a problem, but I do see in a world in which the world is changing, we can't live by 1776 standards and things like that.
Well, there's a lot of people that will make the claim that we do live by 1776 standards in a lot of things.
Okay, let's transition to healthcare. So one of the things from the Supreme Court thing was that Amy, whatever her name is, Barrett.
Barrett.
I saw a tweet about her. They said the Democrats can't call her racist because guess why?
Why?
She has 2 adopted kids from Haiti. When I saw this picture, I was just like, it's Amy, her husband, 4 white babies.
That's crazy.
2 adopted. I'm gonna show you after.
Can I put my 2 cents in this?
Go ahead.
Who cares? Who
It was just hilarious. And I was like, first of all, I did not think she was the type of person to adopt 2 kids from Haiti. Second of all, that doesn't mean you can't be racist.
I'm not racist. I got black kids.
Bruh. So they said she's going to get rid of healthcare, and Trump makes a line that says vaccines are... Well, we'll talk about 2 things. Vaccines are coming, and that insulin is lower. The insulin argument, I think he's correct on this, but I think it's because of, economic reasons, not because he's done anything in healthcare that has led to prices getting lower. That's kind of pharmaceutical conditions that have led to that. The second and more importantly was what was the first thing I just mentioned? Is insulin and
vaccines are coming.
Vaccines are coming. Yeah. So, what do you think was the do you think Trump got brownie points for saying he's going to get vaccines soon? And we can transition to COVID.
Well, personally, no, because I am a little worried. Because then they were asked a question about, in the COVID segment about whether or not Biden would take it or whatever. But I think that one is that Trump has not done enough to produce credibility in the context of the strength or legitimacy of a vaccine.
Right.
Especially, people are going to doubt the credibility of the vaccine if it's created and or distributed right before the election.
Right.
Because people are going to think that
absolutely
there are going to be so many conspiracy theorists that come out that are just like, they had this the whole time. They let 200,000 people die, and I think there's no win there. Second is that on the question of distribution, I don't think that they have the infrastructure to mass distribute a brand new vaccine.
They're going to say the military is going to do it.
No,
but the military's not coming to your door with a vaccine.
I wish they would. I'm not.
Yeah, and I think again Biden needs to capitalize on this more, which transitions us into the COVID discussion. So let's have a full segment.
Wait,
on COVID.
Actually, in regard to that, and we're going to talk about COVID for sure, but there are transitions, and I think that you were like, we're transitioning into a conversation, and that brought to my mind the question of transitioning into the next topic. And we're going to do an entire video on this, I believe, on just the demeanor and Chris Wallace. But Chris Wallace nearly lost control at this moment in particular. Right? When there was a conversation around whether or not Trump's policy 5 days before in terms of producing access was symbolic, and Trump went after Chris Wallace. Just like, no, how dare you? This is partisan, da da da. And I think that that's a really, really interesting way to think about it, because I think that I to some level you have to think that he was attempting to shield a question that he thought was weird. You got to read between the lines in these debates in terms to figure out strategy. Because strategy is not just in what people say, it's in what they do.
Right, and the particular moments in time in which they do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a good point. All right, we'll do COVID for 10 minutes, and then we'll do demeanor, and I think then we'll be done. Okay, so COVID. The biggest thing from COVID in this debate that I saw was Biden. Obviously, this was his moment to be like, this is your country, your economy. You screwed all of it up because you didn't handle the COVID thing correctly. Now, I have a couple of thoughts on this, and then I'll let you talk. I think, from my personal perspective, I don't know what any president could have done when a pandemic like this happens. It is absolutely absurd. Trump is right that it came from China, and it's really not all his fault.
The China plague!
It came from China. What was he supposed to do about it? Now, there were certain things he could have done that were better, like wear the mask and tell people not to drink bleach and stuff like that. That I understand. But to say that 200,000 people died because of Trump, and I've seen this a lot on Facebook and Twitter, I'm just like, I think people are kind of stupid when you say that. If Biden was there, I think a lot of people would have died as well. Now, semantics, 180, 200, it's still a lot of people. Because this is something that you can't control. Trump could not go to every single state. By the way, the country was shut down for a month. Every business. So and this will transition into what I want to talk about mainly, which is I don't think Biden capitalized in making strategic arguments about COVID other than saying this is your fault and attaching this generic blame to him. There was one point where Biden said we've lost hundreds of thousands of jobs because the country was shut down for a month. And me and my sister looked at each other. We were like,
you would have shut, you definitely.
Everyone wanted to shut, Trump was the one not trying to shut it down until Fauci literally put him in a hole and said you have to shut down the country.
Okay.
I don't think there was any strategic value to what Biden did on COVID. And I think it was supposed to be. Because Trump fucked up on COVID.
Okay, so this is where you and I have finally, I think, our first differing thought. So I don't think that. So when you say, if you conclude based on the presumption that you don't think that Biden did anything strategic in the COVID debate,
I really don't.
I gotta disagree with you there. I think that Biden wins the COVID debate, but I think part of the reason is because Trump throws it away. So at one moment, right, Trump attempts to make a claim that if you were here, it would have been a lot worse.
Yes,
right?
he said 2 million instead of 200,000.
2 million instead of 200,000, which I was like, you're lying. But at that point, Trump has now set a premise, which is that the president has to take blame for whatever happens.
Yes.
His claim is, if you were president, you would be just as responsible for however many deaths. There is an equal proportion, which delegitimizes the crux of the initial claim you made, which is that it doesn't really matter who the president was. Trump is making a claim that it does matter who the president is, and that's the reason why he's good. Now, at that point, I have to then think that there's blame there. And I think the other point where this really happens is when Trump brings in the H1B1 and swine flu thing.
Yeah, I
Because
think that was relevant.
he really tried. He was like, y'all sucked during
Yeah, that was
H1N1 and swine flu. And then Joe Biden is just like, yeah, but like 14,000 people died, not 200,000. Now, granted, the world was ready. We had gone through that before. There were a ton of factors that influenced the reason why.
I guess my point is, I think Biden needed to pinpoint very specific things, and this is the part of Biden that's just not like a cutthroat debater. He should have said, at the point where a president tells people to swallow bleach or to get rid of it, like those are the lines I was looking for. But for him to generically say, it is your fault because you're president, which I agree with you, presidents have to take responsibility, but then not pinpoint what he could have done different. I think the closest he got to it was the masks, which Trump turned the whole point by showing his mask and making it a joke. I don't think you get any benefit because everyone already knows that Trump didn't do the best with COVID.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you on that front. My thing is just I have to. So I think that Trump threw the COVID debate away because instead of just being like, well, we have managed the literally, he could have just been the rhetorician he always has been. We have managed the conflict to the best possible nature.
Yes.
And it is a conflict like this was one of the few times that Trump has said things like China plague and people didn't even bat an eye. Because in our minds we're just like, well, this is technically the right argument, right? It's just like there are too many factors that made it uncontrollable. But as soon as Trump made it a question of you would have been net worse because you would have been responsible if you were president, I think that he shifted the dynamics and meant that the entire 200,000 number then affected him. You're right that Biden did not step on his neck.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
But I do think that Biden objectively won that debate.
But maybe Biden didn't win, Trump lost.
Well, yeah, I mean,
because I don't think he turned the COVID thing into
that's too semantic when you're talking about a presidential debate. People are now looking at Trump as being like, you are unfit, or at least in the context of COVID, unfit in terms of dealing with COVID. Now again, this comes down to the original thing I said before, which is that there are differing goals and objectives.
Yeah.
You are correct that in the grand scheme of the debate, the goal and objective that Joe Biden had meant that he had to step on Trump's neck. Our coach used to tell us this.
For COVID particularly.
Yeah, COVID particularly. Our coach used to tell us this. He was like, treat them like roaches, step on them, and when they twitch and wiggle, step on them some more. He's insane, and I love him for it. But Biden did not do that. Biden won the point. It was cool, but that was not the objective there. When somebody is responsible, in your words and your opponent's words, when they are directly responsible for the death of 200,000, and quote, Trump's own scientists say that he could be responsible for 200,000 more in the future, right? When that happens, you've got to take advantage of that, not just from a technical standpoint, but from a rhetorical one.
And that's what I don't think Biden either forgot or wasn't. I mean, if you were going to coach him on something, it was going to be this COVID thing. And I do not think the coaching showed through in terms of being able to adequately say that this is your responsibility. Well, he got that this is your fault, not pinpointing moments in which you could have legitimately done something. Maybe shut down more for another couple weeks or something, right? If we had shut down all of April and May, all of April and May, and a little bit of March, maybe we would have had a lot less deaths because people wouldn't be going on spring break.
Right.
But he said, no, we lost jobs because you shut it. That's when I was just what are you saying? The argumentation was so incohesive at that point.
It is the wrong warrant, but you are correct about what happened. But then when people see disconnects like that, they start to delegitimize the entire argument you've made. And I think that it's one of those things where it's just I think he's right in all the wrong places and wrong in all the important places. And it's just that was a central theme of the debate. I don't think it cost him, but my God, the amount of offense he could have generated in the context of this COVID thing, he slightly missed the mark. But again, I objectively, if you gotta pick a winner on the COVID point, the objective answer is Joe Biden.